No problem. Good evening to you. Let's see. Well, I don't know what just happened, but I'm back. And if you're on the live feed, let me know. That probably interrupted you. I apologize. My fault. Tell me if you guys can hear me on the other end. I may have to reboot and start this again, but that was weird. Okay. I don't know if I've got any of you on here. I may have to start this whole thing over and redo it. Let me know. Let's see. A little bit, but all good. All good. All good. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Preston says finally caught one of these at the very beginning, and it's an awful start. So my apology, Preston. All right, guys, girls, friends, Romans, countrymen. Karen is here. Ted's here. Good evening to you. It's dinner time, and I'm going to do something different tonight because why not? It's summer. It's a fun time to try something different, so I'm going to do it, and I'll explain to you what I'm doing here in a moment. Gosh, I have no idea what happened. There was like a total technical glitch. So, all right. Great to see you. Great to hear from you. Glad you can hear me well. It is Thursday, July 17th at 5:57 p.m. It is warm outside if you're in the sun in central Indiana. I had a contractor come by to price something earlier, and I was sweating, just sweating, doing nothing. So it's warm out there. And if you're warm, you know what you need? A t-shirt, a lightweight, comfortable t-shirt. And you ought to head to homefieldapparel.com, pick out your favorite retro style, maybe pick out one of their packs. They've got a hat pack for former champions. Can't remember what it is, but check it out. Pretty cool stuff. Enter Boiled 25 at checkout for 15% off. And also, when you're on campus, head towards the fire station. And if you don't know why you're there, it's almost like God will guide you to the fire station. Then right there, you're going to see AJ's. It's the greatest place. AJ's been going through some changes this summer, Adam's doing yeoman's work, trying to get some problems solved. He posted on Instagram that they got a little issue. Their transition with their liquor license is coming back, but I don't think they have beer on draft right now. That shouldn't stop you from going there, because it's still that award-winning. When I say award, I'm giving out the award, the greatest staff, the greatest help staff in all of the world, definitely in West Lafayette, is at AJ's. Really nice people there, really good food. If you're on campus and you want to stop by, you will not regret it. Even if you're looking for a pint, get a pint of root beer. They'll have that still. That's still allowed. But I think, 3-4 weeks, they'll have beer back on draft and maybe some surprises on top of that. I'm not going to talk about it yet, but still, in time for school to get back, the beer will be on draft. And I think their trivia night's coming back. I think this week might be the last one for a couple weeks. I can't remember exactly. I don't work there, but I try to keep up with what Adam's doing. He's a very busy man. Burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. EatAJ's.com. AJ's by the fire station. They had a great. Let me see if I can find this. Before I go any further, Adam posted something that I thought was awesome. It says, make sure to stop by AJ's this fall. Just a 5-minute walk from victory. Holy moly. Holy moly, Adam. That's good stuff. Just a 5-minute walk from victory. That's AJ's. That's better than AJ's by the fire station. And here, I'm going to talk about what I think is going to happen this fall, victory-wise, and what some other people think. It's not just me talking, which is a nice departure, but it's my voice. But I'm going to dig in deep. Before I do that, I want to mention the most up-to-date basketball news. Oscar Clough is on campus, boys and girls, just like everybody thought he'd be. Got all of his paperwork in order, head to campus. What do you know? Zach Edey was on campus the same day when he's the first day on practice. He has a do we call it a mullet? He has a it's a working man's haircut. I can tell you that much. And he is a mammoth dude. There's a picture of him standing next to PJ Thompson. There's another one high-fiving Braden Smith that the good folks at Boiler Ball have put out. He is huge. Oscar Clough, I think, is listed as 6'11". Somebody who watched him practice a little bit ago said he's every bit of 7 feet. I don't think he's officially 7 feet, but he is huge. long arms, put together, absolute unit of a dude. So Oscar Clough is practicing. The other news, of course, as we keep up on our international play updates, is Omer Meyer continues to tear things up. His team, sadly, Israel lost to Italy this morning. I think it was this morning. But that didn't change things how well he's played during this tournament. Israel was kind of derailed by Italy's defense. Omer struggled shooting from the field. I think he something like I'm not going to tell you the percent. I'm not going to guess, but I think it was down in the 30s if I remember correctly. He did not shoot the three well, which is his three ball has been really good. But that's okay. Still creating. His passes look awesome. I think he continues to score points in the teens, adding 5 boards, 5 assists, a couple steals. Solid game, even without the 3-pointer going down. I think he was like one of 10. And then there are some people that have a real problem with comparing him to Carson Edwards, and I get it. They're not the same player. But that's a comparison. The dude keeps shooting. Carson Edwards kept shooting. So you can have a problem with that if you want. I can understand why you would, because Omer Meyer is a facilitator. He's a guy that passes. He looks to pass, but he also likes to shoot. And that way, he's a lot different than Braden Smith. There are some similarities with him, and guess what? That's what's going to happen. We all try to make a player fit in a mold of somebody that we're very familiar with, and he's not that person. He's a different guy. So it's going to be good, though. All right, so the reason we're convening today is to talk about the Braintrust. What is the Braintrust? You saw my thumbnail. Who is the Braintrust? Well, the Braintrust is a group of Purdue fans just like yourself. You might even be one of the Braintrusts. And they're in the shadows. They're dark. You don't know exactly who they are, but they're knowledgeable and they're passionate just like you are. And I thought it'd be neat to ask them some questions, get some different perspective, and get some new information. So if you want some info on the Purdue football team, and you dug the last time I talked about all the people that came in via transfer portal, you're going to like this show. I hope you did. Because this one, the funny thing is, these information, deep information heavy shows don't do that great, and they take the most work. I was doing a lot of research to get some of this detail down for you, so you could get to learn a little bit more about some players. That's specifically what I dug in with the defense or the research. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the players, hopefully I can help you learn something in a different way that you don't have to go and dig through websites and all that stuff. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you the questions I asked. So there are anywhere between, 6 to 10 members of the Braintrust. Okay, the Braintrust is not BS staff. That's a very important detail. The Braintrust is a bunch of fans that connect here at BS. They come on the forums. They comment here. I have met every one of them. That's an interesting distinction. Most of them I'd say I know pretty well. So we went from being virtual pals to real pals in 3 dimensions. And most of them, I don't think I knew any of them before Boiled Sports. So there's a little bit about the Braintrust. Okay. If you weren't included and you'd like to be included, drop me a note and we can talk about it. Maybe the next thing I do with the Braintrust, you'll be in it. I don't know. It's the first try though. And maybe the Braintrust will be leaned on for other things. If we don't want to pull a big group, but we want to get a deeper dive into what everybody get a finger on the pulse of the Purdue fan. That's what we're doing here. So there's not a Boiled Sports staffer on here, not a member of media, but a fan that's pretty knowledgeable, that does their homework and still feels strong enough about this stuff to have some thoughts that are their own. That's it. Okay. So you're going to hear a composite of what these people had to say. And here's what I asked them. Pretty simple. I asked them, okay, the over under for the season is 3.5 wins. Are you picking the over or the under? Second question, what will the record be for the team? Obviously, prediction. Third, can you give me your surprise win of the season? Fourth, who will be the offensive and defensive MVP? And fifth, who is your surprise impact player that isn't one of those people above that is your offense and defensive MVP? So that'd be somebody maybe who is all conference still, but isn't somebody that everybody sees coming and isn't even your first thought for who's that impact player, who's that MVP. So I'm going to present it in a way that I'm going to go through the season part first, and I'm probably going to jump around a little bit. I'm not going to dig into individual predictions, but I'm going to try to get a composite. First thing, on the over-under question, they all smashed the over. Every one of them said Purdue's going to be over that 3.5 win Vegas pick. That's good to hear. I can understand why they get there. Obviously, Purdue's going to start. Almost every Purdue fan I know says you're going to start 2-0 because you've got Ball State in transition. You got a lower divisional team foe in Southern Illinois right away. Things get a lot harder right after that. I'm not going to break down the season today either. We'll do that sometime. Jay and Anisha and I will do that sometime in the near future. I'm guessing in the next 3-4 weeks. Up to them when they want to do that. But that's coming. So Handsome Hour stuff is coming. I have an idea, a concept of Handsome Hour tailgate talk, which will be us looking ahead, our predictions for what we think. But before you do that, you can listen to this. And you can learn a little bit different perspective. Okay, so everybody says the over. How many games do they think Purdue's going to win? Well, the average was 4.6 wins. That is a lot more than one win. I'm not a math guy. And Barry Odom getting to 5 wins or 4 wins, it's a pretty good feat. It's not exactly, a lot of, if you're younger, if you haven't been through some of the fires that us olds have, maybe you don't think 4.6 wins sounds like good or noteworthy, but I will tell you, coming from where Purdue has come and the fact that the program was absolutely shaken down to its foundation, 4.6 wins would be something. So getting up to a full 5 wins, it'd be tough to win 0.6 games, but getting to 5 wins would be incredible. I still am holding fast that I think 4 wins is a pretty safe bet. I think it's a good bet. So you'd be on the over on my side regardless. 4.6 wins. The highest pick of wins is a 6-6 season, and we had 2 people. One of them made that his pick, and the other one hedged a bit and said it's very possible. I think there's some interesting things that could happen with momentum with this team this year, especially in that first third of the season. We can see what happens. But boy, that last third of the season is going to be rough. The lowest win prediction, of course, was 4. A lot of guys had 4. A lot of guys had 5. Then the next question was, what's your surprise win of the season? I'll give you an overview here. There were a lot of predictions here for IU. And I think, so the good news is that I think IU will be worse than last year. The bad news is IU is still going to be really good and worse than last year. They return so much firepower on offense. They have one of the best wide receiver cores in America. No exaggeration. They have a very, very high-powered offense, and they have a team that finished in the fourth quarter like nobody I've seen in college football in the last few years. They got stronger as the game went on. Now, will they be as good as last year? I don't think so. I think that's multiple reasons. I think their schedule's a little bit harder. I think people are going to see them coming, but man, their QB situation's good. Their wide receiver room is very good. And their offensive coordinator is very good, as well as their coach. Google me. So picking IU as the biggest upset of the season, your most surprise win, is a big surprise. Even if IU wins 7 or 8 games, which I think that's what they're going to do, would still be a hell of a stretch for our Boilermakers. Here's some other teams that your fellow Purdue fans, your fellow Boiled Sports listeners, watchers said. Illinois was a big surprise. USC is one, and I agree with that one. USC is my surprise win on the season. Northwestern was one. Washington, at Washington against Coach Walters, the defensive coordinator, was one of them. Another good bit of feedback. Another person said at Minnesota is a possibility for a surprise win. I don't know if I'd put that in the surprise category. Another very good bit of thought that I got from one of the Braintrust was the Notre Dame game was a pivotal game. Not in that it will be a game that Purdue wins, but it'll be one that you'll know a lot about Purdue at that point. And you'll know, okay, how well is Ryan Brown getting seated at quarterback, for instance? Is Maccabee able to find space? This type of thing. Is the defensive backfield as good as I think they're going to be? Because I think that's a big strength for this defense this year. So those are, I think that's a good point. That Notre Dame game, by the time you get to there, you're like, okay, we know quite a bit of this team. I do think they're going to be a work in progress. They'll get better as the season goes on. But man, the schedule gets harder after that midway point. No doubt about it. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to these players. Okay, so I asked them who is their offensive and defensive MVP, and then who would be the surprise impact player. This is where I ask you guys to get your popcorn out. You're going to learn a little bit, I believe. Maybe you won't. Maybe you already know all these guys and you know all the information I'm giving to you. But even still, for me, if you're anything like me, call me simple-minded, call me whatever you want, but I still don't feel real comfortable when I talk about Purdue's roster and what's coming. I've done this research now 2 or 3 times trying to dig in deep for podcasts, and I still don't feel real comfortable understanding the roster. I think it's going to come with camp. Obviously, we're going to learn a lot about the team at camp and who's really, really making impact. But let me tell you first, I'm going to give you the potential offensive MVPs. This one's easy. I think this was easy for everybody. And let me see. It was okay. So what I got out of the Braintrust, what I got out of them was every single one of them had either Maccabee or Brown, I believe. Yep. Every single one of them had Maccabee or Brown as their offensive MVP. And I'm going to talk a little bit about these two. You already know both of these guys, but we're going to start slow and easy. Who is Devin Maccabee? Well, Devin Maccabee, number one, his uncle is a BS guy. That's cool. That's a good start. But also, Devin Maccabee is a 6 foot tall, 207 pound running back with a very, very unorthodox style. He's been called the mock train. He's been called Crazy Legs. I don't think that nickname is something he used. He's been called, he's got a ton of nicknames, but he's an incredibly difficult guy to tackle. At the end of the day, that's really his story. He's also got track speed. If you go back to high school, he was a state champ, I think in the 200. But legit track speed. So what has he done since he's been here? Well, last season, appeared in all 12 games, led the team with 138 carries, 687 yards, 4 TDs, 17 receptions for 17 yards. So he did last year. Year before, he was all Big Ten honorable mention. And he played in 12 games that year, 172 carries, 811 yards, 7 TDs, 19 receptions for 180 yards. Maccabee's dangerous. Maccabee's a weapon, no doubt. Calling him the offensive MVP is not a stretch. And you go back to the time when Jeff Brom was here. Remember, Devin was a walk-on under Brom, and he earned his scholarship, I believe, under Walters. Is that correct? I believe I believe Brom gave him the scholarship. I cannot remember. But yeah, he did. He's got a scholarship. I think it was one of Walter's first moves, if I remember correctly. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to flip the Rolodex in the mind. But in 2022, he played in all 13 games. This goes back to Jeff Brom's time, of course. Rushed 195 times for 968 yards, just shy of that 1,000-yard mark. Had 9 TDs and 274 yards receiving. Remember, he was kind of a weapon for that multifaceted Jeff Brom offense as well, with Aiden O'Connell at the QB. So there you go. That's an easy pick for offensive MVP. Another easy pick, of course, is Ryan Brown, but for different reasons. A lot of people are basing this on potential. Ryan Brown, though, like I said, this is a guy who his path is interesting, and you're going to hear this as a theme over and over. These guys, this Purdue team has so many guys that are just fighters and grinders. I don't know if I've ever seen a group of Purdue football players like this before. And what I mean is guys that have had unusual paths. And I know we're in a new era of college football with the portal and with NIL. But this group is so interesting, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think you're going to learn that. If you didn't already know that, you're going to learn a little bit more about that. But Ryan Brown, who is going to be the team leader, he's going to be the guy that I think this team rallies around because he's a likable dude and he's a good locker room guy. And like I said, I've met him a couple times. He's an interesting person. He's a nice dude. All that's good. He's also got this crazy story. So let's talk about his crazy story. He's 6'4", 205-pound sophomore QB. Only a sophomore, but that doesn't tell the whole story. He started high school in Detroit. He moved to Venice, Florida, and the reason he did this, he needed exposure playing quarterback. He played, I think he played running back before playing quarterback, while another guy was starting. So he moves to Venice, Florida, lives with family. Went 14-1 as a starter, okay? Needed more time, didn't have the offers, went to Milford Academy prep school out in Berlin, New York. Got more reps at QB. Really interesting thing. Threw 28 TDs in Berlin, New York at Milford Academy. Set the record for that prep school for all-time TDs. There, while at Milford Academy, he got the attention of the Braum brothers and was offered a scholarship. Then the Braums left. Okay. In 2023, in 2023, he appeared in just one game. I'm doing this backwards compared to the last one. Appeared in just one game, went 12 of 16, ran the ball 21 times, okay? Averaged 4 yards a carry when running the ball in 23. But in 24, he was kind of thrust into action when Hud Card was injured. Hud Card was injured a couple times. That was something that a recurring theme had to, coaches had to deal with that. And they were legit, and he was injured. His ribs were injured, which absolutely sucks. But when thrust into action, Ryan Brown did some interesting stuff. He rushed for 150 yards last season, total 532 yards passing. 2 career starts, 1 game versus Illinois, 1 versus Oregon, which was an abomination for everybody that night. Horrible game. Really showed where the program was and how far they had fallen. We had a lot of those last year. He also played some snaps versus Penn State. He was the first Purdue QB since Brandon Kearse to throw for 250 yards and run for 100 yards in a game. That's an interesting factoid about Ryan Brown. Of course, after the season, he transferred to North Carolina, play for Bill Belichick, and quickly he transferred back to Purdue. So that's Ryan Brown's circuitous path to being the presumed starter heading into camp. Okay, now here are some of the guys that weren't the offensive MVP, but were impact players that you might not see coming, according to the Braintrust. First one is a guy that I agree with completely, Denylon Morissette. And what I'm going to do is they're going to get these dark horses, I think, are going to get a little more oblique as we get away. Denylon Morissette, of course, 6'1", 200-pound wide receiver from Georgia. He came to Purdue via the portal. 2024 was his first year at Purdue. He appeared in 11 games as a sophomore, had 4 starts, and he was pretty trusty last year. He's one of the receivers that Purdue could count on, had a bit of a boneheaded play. Not weird for a sophomore to make a boneheaded play. He had 11 receptions for 106 yards, 2 TDs. In 2023, he appeared in 3 games for Georgia. In 2022, he was a freshman. He played in 11 games for Georgia, played some special teams. He was a 4-star recruit out of the state of Georgia. The next one up, this is one of the guys that has an interesting path and has been in the game a long time, but hasn't had a breakthrough season because of injury and a bunch of other stuff. His name's Charles Ross. Charles Ross, a wide receiver. Purdue got him out of the portal from USC. He's 6'1", 175-pound, 7th year senior wide receiver. 7th year senior wide receiver. In 2024, it was his 6th year. As a 6th year senior, he appeared in just 3 games, had 1 catch for 11 yards. In 23, as a 5th year senior at San Jose State, he was called 4th team All-Mountain West. He appeared in 12 games, had 26 receptions, 350 yards, and a TD. In 22, he played in 6 games, 14 receptions, 66 yards. In 21, played in 9 games, 25 receptions, 305 yards, and 2 TDs. And in 2020, he was a redshirt freshman at Nevada. Played 9 games, had 2 receptions, 21 yards, also played special teams. He was a 3-star recruit out of high school in the class of 2019 out of Cali. Is that right? Is my math right? I think that's right. 7 year. It's a long time. 7 years ago, I had all my hair and I was taller then before I went through my shrinking phase as an old man. That's not true. None of that's true. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about George Burren. Okay, this is another guy who's a dark horse according to the Braintrust. Okay, for a guy that can make big impact. Burren was hurt during the spring game. He should be ready for the beginning of the season, according to a couple different sources. I believe that's the last I've read on this. He's 6'5", 240-pound sophomore tight end, and you know him. You know him best for having 5 receptions, 74 yards versus IU back in 23 in the final game. And in 24, he played in 4 games before injury. He's a former 3-star recruit out of McCordsville. I believe, interesting fact, my uncle was at a pasta, an Italian dinner place in McCordsville when the Purdue coaches were recruiting him and they ran into him. Very weird weird occurrence. No mention of Nitro Tuggle as a dark horse for the offensive impact player by the Braintrust, sadly. But one of the most interesting offensive impact players that I got from the Braintrust was the offensive line. That's not one player, but that was what this member of the Braintrust said. The offensive line is my dark horse impact player, and I really like this pick because I think this offensive line has a lot of potential to be a lot better than people think they could be, and a lot better than they've been the last few years because I think they've got a solid core here. Well, that core is going to be anchored by two guys. Jalen St. John, who's a redshirt senior from UNLV. He is a ginormous human being, 6'5", 325 pounder. He was a all Mountain West type guy. I believe he's second team. Originally comes from St. Louis. And then, of course, Joey Tonona, 6'5", 310 pound junior guard and tackle. He's played both. And he's an interesting guy. He's another one of these interesting stories because, of course, after a major car wreck, he retired from football. And then his buddy Gus Hartwig from Zionsville High School said, you know what, you ought to think about coming back playing football at Purdue, coming out of retirement after he was a high 4-star at Notre Dame. All right, let's move on to the defense. See, we're not done yet. You're going to learn even more about personnel. And this was an interesting one. So on the defensive side of the ball, of course, spread out a little bit more of who your defensive MVP would be. And some of these picks are really heady. Some of these names you may not know. Maybe you do, but I think this is a lot harder than that offensive side of the ball. And so let's start out with the one I heard more than anyone, of course, Manny Powell, 6'2", 230 pounds, senior linebacker. He is a UNLV portal transfer product. Played in all 14 games last year for UNLV. Recorded 59 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss, 3.5 sacks. Big production, big player, plays with an edge. He played in 10 games as a junior the year before that, and was second string linebacker and played with special teams. He's a former 3-star recruit out of Arkansas, and I believe that's the old, you see the connections. This is one thing, Barry Odom, I think he's a relationship guy. You know, he knows a lot of his coaching staff comes from Missouri and Arkansas, of course, the time at UNLV, and same with his recruits. A lot of these guys have deeper roots than just what's on the surface, and I think that's the way Odom would like to build his roster as well. Another guy who I heard, I got this out of order because I think, let's go this way. A guy that I heard 2 predictions to be the defensive MVP. Was Tony Grimes. Tony Grimes is another UNLV product. And this guy, he's had a long career as well. There are a couple. In this defensive backfield, there are some dudes that have a few miles on the tires. Tony Grimes, 6'2", 195 pounds senior cornerback, played some safety as well. 6-year senior out of UNLV last year. 5th year, he played at UNLV, started all 13 games, had 20 tackles, 6 pass breakups. So what I'm gathering from highlight videos and reading about the guy is he is a really sure tackler and a coverage corner. He's not a ball hawk as much, but very, very good tackler. 2023, he was injured. He was on Texas A&M's roster. 2022, started all 11 games. Here's where it gets interesting. Started all 11 games for North Carolina. And he played 2 defensive back positions. He had 36 tackles, 7 pass breakups at UNC. In 2021, he was at UNC again. He was all ACC honorable mention that season with 13 started games, 43 tackles. In 2020, as a freshman, he appeared in all 12 games for UNC, both in the defensive backfield and on special teams. So pretty darn interesting path to get here to Purdue. Next up, CJ Madden, not as much of an interesting path to get to Purdue, but an interesting guy nonetheless. 6'4", 270 pound junior defensive end. This is his second season at Purdue after being a transfer from Georgia. He only played in 3 games last season, and his season was shortened due to injury. Played in 7 games at Georgia as a true freshman. He is a former 4-star recruit out of the state of Georgia, obviously. And okay, this guy might be the most interesting of all of the players, and you've heard some interesting stories so far. But this one, you've heard me talk about him before. This is a guy that I'm excited to see him play at Purdue. but an extremely, extremely interesting path to get where he is. Crew Wakely. 6 foot, 210 pound safety. He came to Purdue via BU in the transfer portal, or BYU, pardon me, BYU, Brigham Young, via the transfer portal. And I'm going to start this one back because his origin story is an interesting one. When I say interesting, it's incredible. He was an all-state quarterback in the state of Utah who threw for 4,400 yards and had 43 TDs 8 years ago. 8 years ago. He calls himself the old man in the locker room. And what else makes him interesting or old? He's 25 years old and he's been married for over 5 years. What else makes him interesting? Right after high school, he went on his Mormon mission. So there's 2 years added on to his time. In 2020, he played 6 games for Utah State. In 2021, he played in 4 games for Utah State. In 2022, he moved to California and he sold solar panels. This is all true. 2023, 12 games played. Let's see. Yeah, so now in 2023, this is so how he gets there. He's selling solar panels and somebody at BYU finds him, I believe is how it works. And they said, you ought to come back to football. And he says, okay, he tells his wife, this is grown up stuff, right? This is real life stuff. He says, I think I want to give this another shot. And so after being an all-state quarterback, transferring over to DP at Utah State, quitting football, he comes back after selling some solar panels and he goes back to BYU. At BYU in 2023, he played in all 12 games, he played in 12 games. They had more than that. Had 59 tackles, 3.5 tackles for a loss, 1 interception, and 6 pass breakups. In 2024, his junior year at BYU, he played 11 games, had 44 tackles, had 1 sack, 2 interceptions, and a pass breakup. And at the end of the season, in the season meeting with his positional coach, he was told he was going to split time next year. So he wasn't going to start. And for a guy that's at that point, well, I think he may still, I don't know when his birthday is. He might be 26 now. But he said, I really want to give it a try to get in the league, and I'm already 25 years old. And so he decided to enter the portal, and Purdue gets his services because BYU said he was going to split time. Another grinder, though. Another hell of a story. Crew Wakely. And finally, the final dark horse to be the impact player on Purdue, offense or defense, is a guy named TJ Lindsey. This is according to Dark Horse. TJ Lindsey's an interesting guy. He's on the other end of the spectrum. He's a pup. He's a kid. 6'3", 295-pound redshirt freshman defensive lineman. Purdue got him via Auburn in the transfer portal. He appeared in just 1 game at Auburn, so not many miles on these tires. And he's a former IMG Academy 4-star recruit out of Arkansas. So there we go back. The roots back in Arkansas. He was a very, very good high school player. And the fact that he's already 295 at defensive tackle, he's ready. He's ready to play. He got on the field a little bit for Auburn, but it's not a bad pick. And there's going to be a lot of guys. Maybe you've got one, and we can talk about who your dark horse pick is for impact player on offensive defense. You can do it in the comments or right now when I talk to you live, and I'm about to go live with you. So there we go. I hope you learned a little bit. I know I did doing the research, and I know this took me a long time, and I hope that pays off for you, the listener or the watcher. And Steven Azzano was here from the jump in my weird introduction. I believe I've got a break in this. I'm not positive, but I'm going to go back and check, see if I can edit it out. Like I said, I don't know what happened technologically, but I'm glad you stuck with me, Steven. It looks like you're still here throughout the comments, at least a little ways. And he was first, indeed. Karen Grulock was also first, no. But Karen Grulock was here right on the jump. She was here live. Ted Berkey, good afternoon to you. Steve says, he talked about all the issues I was having. I'm going to get past this. And Karen is lamenting, though. She says, I'm never first. Sounds good. Good to hear. Preston Bannock, I talked about him earlier. He said he got to be here from the beginning. It's awesome. Need to be in verse. Andrew is here, says, what's up, B-Dad? How are you, sir? Ted Berkey says, there were some issues. Now you sound and look good. I'm glad to hear it. Gosh, man, tech is awesome. If I had a producer, and I've talked to I've talked to some of you guys about this, Andrew. So Zachary Welch says, boiler up. I said I wouldn't get sucked into Purdue football again, but here we are. Exactly. And if you're not getting a little sucked into this, I would say you're probably not much of a Purdue football fan. It's not the end of the world, but there's reason to have some hope. There really is. Barry Odom's got systems in place. He's a guy that's had some success at different places. There's reason to be hopeful. And there's a lot of players on this roster that are going to be fun to root for. And that's been my whole thing. It's going to be hard to find the relation points where you're like, yeah, I get that guy. I know his story. I know where he's come from. But there's some great stories here. Very unconventional stuff, though. Steve Azano says, oh, this is big information. Currently playing college football 26, trying to learn the names of some of these players. See, now that's a great way to do it. I don't play that game anymore. I used to play a long time ago when it was NCAA football. But that's a great way to do it. I'm sure many of you are on the same page. That's a good way to jump on, figure out the roster. Jackson Clark says, like the stream, folks. Okay, awesome. South Haven Boiler says, looking sharp in your shirt. Thank you. We will be seeing a handsome hour anytime soon. We need to get the band back together. I agree. We need to get the band back together. And I agree. There will be a handsome hour. The word soon is the one that I can't define. I don't know when that's going to happen. I can tell you there's been more chatter amongst at least the Handsome Three. I can tell you that of late. So maybe sooner than later. Hopefully not like right up against the camp date. Maybe I can get one of them to come on for, I don't know, maybe a little lunchtime thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's tough to get it started. I can tell both have been very busy. Anisha's been traveling like crazy a lot. And I don't even know, I mean, all over the place. And Jay, his big thing is, of course, he's got 2 boys that he's keeping up with. And yeah, little Jay Money is good athlete. All right. Nick LaRue says, I chose to believe we exceed all expectations and make it back to a record 3rd Music City Bowl. Wow. Nick, with the bold optimism, and I love it. I'm not ever going to tell somebody not to be optimistic. That's bold, though. I like that. Brock Stepler says, boiler up, caught it late, but good little surprise. Going to watch from the beginning. Excellent, Brock. Glad you're here. And sorry for imposing on anyone's dinner time. I'm sure many of you have that. For some reason, we have been eating dinner very late here in the Boilered Outhouse. So this worked out perfect. After the workday, but my work day is not going to end. I'm going to work for another 3-4 hours tonight. Why? Because that's what I do right now. This is what I do right now. Anyway, Preston Bannock says, and now he's number 3. I don't understand what these crowns are, but he's number 3. He says, I think we're going to go 6-6. Excellent. Though I wouldn't be upset with 4-8. Obviously, would be happy with the higher. He continues, says, I think we're going to beat USC, Michigan, and IU. Okay, so this is a headier pick than you think it is. Preston, I like what. So number one, I think the USC game, that's a 3:30 kickoff. It's in Ross-Ade. It's going to be one of those magical. I think it's going to feel good there. It's going to be blazing hot. I think still we're 3 weeks into the season, so it'll still be warm. Won't be dark yet at the end of the game, but it's going to feel magical there. It's not going to be one of those nighttime magical Ross-Ade games, but it's going to be fun. Late afternoon. It's going to be the beautiful, when that sky is just lit up orange and purple in Ross-Ade, if you're on the poor guy's side of the stands like I always am, it's going to be one of those. And I guess what? The olds are going to love this, seeing USC in Ross-Ade. That's the first thing. And the youngins are going to love it because they're going to be like, all right, big time atmosphere. Time to turn over a new leaf. We're getting away from the Walters era. This is it. This is the Barry Odom era beginning officially. So I like that one. Michigan, I think, has been down. I agree with that. I do think that they're going to continue their trajectory of just not playing that great as a team. IU, of course, if Purdue, a couple things fall in there, you could have Purdue going into the bucket with 5 wins. I'm telling you, though, IU's firepower. Woo! That's legit, guys. I told you last year, I was on early with Coach Google Me, and I Yeah, that team's really good. IU's really, really good. They finish games really well, and their offense is so sound. John Hawk says, I wish I could catch one of these from the beginning, but I'm lucky if I can get home by 6 or 7. By the way, IU sucks. Yes, all good stuff, all true. And sorry about the timing. I never know when I'm going to do this. It just kind of where it fits. So, sorry, I just got a text, made me laugh. All right. Greg Mitchell says, just show some improvement. I think that's the big overarching theme. I think you're going to have a bunch of happy Purdue fans if they do that. Ben Kolodzinski says, yes, sir, made it to the live show. He is here. Good to see you, Ben. Steven Azano says, Walters gave it. I don't know what that means. I'm sure you can come back and expound. Greg Mitchell says, first thing Walters did. What am I? So these are comments. I'm sorry, I can't catch up from where you guys are talking about. It's obviously minutes ago. I'm behind, not you. Tim Eaton says, I will gladly take a 4-8 season with our tough schedule, but mainly we'll be happy just playing competitive in the games that we lose. Think we would all be proud of that after what we've endured last year. I think the effort is going to matter. Seeing a team that scratches and claws and fights, doesn't roll over, lose 66-0. Maybe. Dave Budnick says, Walters gave him his scholarship on his first meet. Okay, you guys are talking about the Maccabee theory. I'm sorry. Now I'm caught up. Stephen, Greg, now David. Yes, Walters gave him a scholarship. I think that was a smart move, and I think that was Jeff Brom saying to Ryan Walters that you ought to do this. This is a good first move, and it was. Frailhammer says, one of the few Walters accomplishments. Agreed. It's tough. Yeah. Unlike you guys, all of my opinions are documented and they're permanent, and I really don't get rid of them. And you can go back and see. I was excited about Ryan Walters. 2 years. Tough 2 years. All right. Greg McManus says hello. How are you, Greg? John Hawk says, we win the first 2, and then at Minnesota, Northwestern, Illinois, and IU, go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl and beat some ACC powerhouse. That sounds pretty good. I cannot stand, one of the grossest things for me every year is watching a coach have mayonnaise dumped on his head. I always wonder if it's hopefully some sort of vanilla pudding standing in place for mayo, but I bet it's not. I think it'd be tough if I were a coach and you douse me with mayonnaise and I just projectile vomited all over the media and my players and the dignitaries from the fine Duke's Mayo Corporation. Yeah, that's what happened. I can eat a little bit of mayo. I cannot have mayo in that quantity on me. There's no way. And the smells, would just get worse. John Hawk says, Manny Powell on D. Yeah, right on. A lot to be excited about with Manny Powell. Greg Manna says, good call on Morissette. I see that non-TD catch pop up on socials weekly, so there's some redemption motivation. Yeah, if you're not familiar with what he's talking about, it's the one where he was standing out of bounds and he caught it, and I think it was versus Nebraska. Is that right, Greg? And the DB is just kind of like, I think he just points to the ground saying, you're out of bounds, bro. It's great. That's a great highlight. It's the entire Purdue offense last year. John Hawk says Nitro Tuggle on offense. Good pick. He's gonna be an impact guy. A lot of energy. Greatest name in college football. John Hawks also says our O-line is bigger than we have ever had. They're mammoth, man. On paper, they're mammoth. They're deep. Sorry, my voice is changing. It's a magical time for me. But they are a deep offensive line. Swag123 says hello. Nate Dolan says, thanks for the player breakdown. After last year's worse than rock bottom result, in my mind, any improvement would be enjoyable. You're welcome for the breakdown of the players. Labor of love for me, and I'm hoping it sticks this time. Every time it's new for me right now because I haven't seen these guys in Purdue jerseys, most of them, right? So obviously Maccabee and Brown stick really easily. But yeah, let's keep on going. IC says afternoon from Texas. Oh, it's warm down there. Hope you and your family are well. Hope you're well. And I don't know where you are in Texas, Central Texas, but the recovery, gosh, what's going on there? Still crazy. Still awful. Still praying for people down there. Motor City Boiler says, how are you guys getting these crowns? First time making it on live while never seen that before. Yeah, and it's disappointing to not wear the crown, but John Hawks, he was number 1. He was number 3, and then he rose to the rankings, became number 1. And yeah, I don't understand these crowns. So there's a good homework assignment. If you want to just help your pal Boiler Dad, tell me what's going on with these crowns in the comments. I have no idea. It's only 3 deep, I believe. But yeah, crowns. Awesome stuff. Greg Manis says, looks like it's based purely on the number of comments. So is it number of comments today in this post? That's what the crown is based on. For those of you listening, you think I'm an idiot, but I swear there are crowns in the comments, not crayons. Midwesterners, sometimes we say crowns, but not crayons, crowns, like on your head. Motor Boy says, I see, rewarding quantity over quality. Exactly. Just like everyone in society does right now. Nita B. in Verse says, I read the other day that Maccabee donated $10K to a youth organization. This is correct. Seems like a great dude. He's a good guy, and he's a different bird. And the things that I gather from his family that I've talked to and his story and where he's from, he's a great and interesting guy. He made a lot of countercultural decisions in the offseason. Number one, he chose to come back to Purdue, and he actually took a pay cut. So that's one thing I'm pretty confident that this is a true story, that he was offered more money from someplace else, and he came back to Purdue for multiple reasons. He has a lot of connections. He's put down roots at Purdue, which is interesting because he's a Southern Indiana kid. And he's a good guy. Good kid. From every account that I've heard. So Marshall Briggs says, good evening, brother. How are you, Marshall? Thanks for stopping by. Greg McManus, who is now number 3 here, says, I saw on Twitter college football account, or one Twitter college football account the other day assert Purdue's best case scenario is 2 wins. It's insanely poor analysis. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of dumbasses out there, and we can just say that. Twitter is definitely a place where they all seem to come and meet, and there's some dumb conversations happen because of that, but that's really poor. If you look at the schedule, if you look at the first half specifically, and I promised I'm not going to break down the schedule right now, but if you look at that first half, there's some games in there that you're like, win some games. But yeah, I agree, Greg. Marshall Briggs says, IU fears Virginia. They are very afraid. They're so afraid of Virginia, they pay them to leave. Pay them a lot to leave. Are they really that good? Soft schedule and all? Just kidding, kind of. No, Virginia is not that good. But so let's break this down. If you don't know the story, Virginia was on IU's schedule for a home and home. IU paid them off to say go away, and they backfilled with football juggernauts like Austin Peay. IU does this. When they put Virginia on the schedule, that was more surprising. It's what IU has done. It's the Fred Glass legacy more than anything else. You could say some bad basketball hires, some bad moves on basketball. Also, Fred Glass's legacy. But the biggest one was schedule nobody in the pre-con. Football and basketball, schedule no one, right? We're going to be as weak as possible. You know, there's the coach, the stereotypical coach will say, we'll play anyone, anytime, and anywhere, right? Coach Google Me says, we'll play somebody at Memorial Stadium when we say so. So it's not quite as catchy. It doesn't look as good on a t-shirt, but that's what Coach Google Me wants to do. And part of me, so here's the devil's advocate. I get it. And that's in college football, a lot different than basketball. There are teams scheduling the hell out of these cream puffs because now the conference schedules, you're going to get wrung out in that conference schedule. The SEC has been way ahead on this, if we're being really honest. Not only they putting cupcakes on the schedule, they're putting them in the center of the middle of the season to rest up and get everybody healthy. So, yeah. So part of me says, I get it. On the other side, I said, perfect. Thank you, IU, for giving us fodder. And I will continue to say that. So there's a moron IU fan that comes over here. Don't know why, but can't wait to hear what he has to say. He always sounds off, and you learn so much. Motor City Boiler says, IU canceled Virginia. Scaredy cats. Yeah, very scaredy. Greg Manis says, I have a feeling Odom would lean into that sideshow a little bit regarding Duke's Mayo. Oh, he would. He would. He's a bigger man than me, literally and figuratively. But yeah, he'd be all right with the Mayo. He'd be okay with that. I'm sure of it. So I'm telling you, the vomit would be you'd tell your grandkids about it. Motor City Boiler says, and he's number three king right now, says Purdue listed as I can't read Vegas odds, but minus 16, negative 16. So they're favored by at least 16 and a half. Is that right? Over Ball State. Seems like a no-brainer. No. Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. Purdue. Yeah. I think Purdue, that's one of those games like Indiana State last year, right? Where you're like, okay, Ball State's reeling. They're trying to figure things out. Fired a coach, hired a coach. It's real hard to rebuild a team with resources right now. It's obviously you go into the portal, you try to make things easier, make it more attractive for guys to come to your school. Ball State doesn't have that. This is a hard thing. So he can be a really good coach. This is a tough situation he's in. So yeah. I think I'm never going to give you betting advice officially, but yeah, that's a no-brainer. Greg Mass says, OOB catch. Oh, the out-of-bounds catch was versus Penn State. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Preston Bannock says, he's number 2, King. Says, I think it has to do with how much you interact in the chat. And then he continues, still number 2, King says, and now I'm number 2. Yeah, you're number 2. You're number 2. Sam says, agreed. Really dumb, smart people out there. There's all types. And we don't know what we're arguing with. This is the problem with internet arguments and discussions. And I would ask you as a pal, virtual pal or real pal, depending on how well I know you, don't get too deep in those arguments. They don't do it you any good. Don't do anybody else any good. Greg Manis says, I don't think what IU did was an IU thing. This will be the path going forward for Power 4. Load up on FCS and lower tier to get wins. Try to sneak into the playoff. I think you're correct. This is where the SEC is blazing the trail. Thank God. Funny things that happen. I don't know if you guys watch, get on YouTube and just do college football searches. I do, especially this time of year. And the Big Ten and the SEC are angry at each other behind closed doors right now, which is funny. A lot of disagreements on how to handle upcoming playoff things and potential more alignment. The ACC, I think, is they're on the clock. So a lot of stuff happening. There's always stuff happening that we don't know about, but yeah. This one though is a pretty obvious one. Sam says it's called SEC Scheduling 101. Agreed. Marshall Briggs says, Coach Google me. Not gonna lie, that's a T-shirt waiting to happen. Agreed. And I should probably just put that on that RedBubble. I should do that. I got like 3 that I want to do. So one of them is I just hope both teams lose. That's a T-shirt I want to make because there are so many games, especially in college football, that I watch. I'm like, I hate both these teams. Nothing's redeemable here. Obviously, that's one that you say, who are you rooting for? The Meteor. Same idea. But I just hope both teams lose is one of my favorite things to think about and say. Especially as we get deep in the season, I'm like, man, if only I do not like these coaches. I do not like these fan bases. I don't like anything here. Hope they both lose. So, yeah, this would be a good. Coach Google me is definitely a good one. Motor City Boiler says, if you can't beat Virginia, is that really worth getting into the playoff? Well, this was the argument about IU last year, right? They were a good team, but they didn't play anybody. So, yeah. You're going to deal with every year. There's going to be a discussion of some sort about did you play enough tough teams? And if you're not in the SEC, the media is going to say you didn't. Let's see. Sam says, if you're in the college football playoff, that's all that matters. Welcome to the new world. Yep. Greg Manis continues, says, cash. Yep. No doubt about it. We are in a weird transitional time. It's going to be even weirder after the transition's over, because it's going to be less recognizable. And I think it'll break the college sports will break themselves apart even further, of course. Motor City Boiler says, just bought tickets to the Ball State game this morning. That's awesome. Purdue won every football game I went to last year, so it's a lock. Very good info. There's your insider betting info, because I love betting. I do not bet. But there you go. There's your lock. And that is that Motor City Boiler, all he does is win. Need to Boom Verse says, thank you for your service. Yeah, exactly. Hat tip. You need to buy You need to buy tickets to the bucket. Greg May says, I hope both teams lose. Would buy immediately. All right, I'll make that happen. I'll get that happen. Once my work comes down, I got to put it in my notebook that's so beautifully and neatly organized. I got to put it down. Got a couple things to do there. Let's see. Blake Vidmer says, boiler up. It's all just passing time till basketball season. Yeah. We're all just waiting. We cannot wait till basketball practice. I know they've been practicing, but until school year and we start seeing everybody on campus, when we see Meyer on campus and you start seeing some videos of that's going to be even more exciting. So cannot wait till that happens. There's some sort of lawnmower race happening in my court, which is interesting. Not that you guys care. All right. Sam, who's now number 2 king, says we all just want competitive team bowl games, and we'll be there for it. Agreed. Tough to do it, but we're a fan base that has a short wish list. Completely agree. We are not a demanding fan base, and Purdue fans show out. They travel, they come to Ross-Ade, and the expectations are, I think, generally fair. I can only think about 2 seasons in the last 25, 30 years where the expectations were stupid, meaning unreal. And if you remember back when Joe Tiller was there, he always said manage expectations after he had some success. And the problem that Joe had raised the bar. He did it. He made it Purdue fans say, okay, can't wait till the next step. What's coming next, coach? When do we get our 10-win season? Jay Money is still waiting for our 10-win season, for the record. Still waiting. Ever waiting. Blake Vidmer says the glory days of Tiller and Breeze and absolutely, Orton will probably never happen again. Disagree. But we got to be better than IU. So, Blake, things are cyclical, okay? Magic starts happening. It's not lightning in a bottle. It's when things fit and they work out. And Purdue, it's usually around a coach fitting. That's the first thing. And the second thing is the right quarterback arrives on campus. And then really good things start happening. It will happen again. It's not like Purdue didn't win a natty in football. Purdue was really good. They were solid. What, top 15 team? I don't think that's ridiculous to think that's going to happen again. I really don't. And I used to say it was a ridiculous thought to say Purdue was going to win the conference. Okay. After going to the conference championship in Indianapolis, I was shocked at that. Obviously that was weird because of the way the divisions were lined up. But I was like, okay, they're going to win. They're going to go to this playoff. I really believe that, especially as it keeps growing asininely, because it's going to grow. Again, money. It's all about money. But yeah, so I think it'll happen again. I don't think those glory days were ridiculously successful. Look at IU for a second and say, they just did it, guys, girls. They just did it. IU is not a high place on a mountain for football. Let's not forget that. But they did it. They did it. Things fell in place, and they got a good coach. They got a really good coach who's a complete jerk. Greg McManus says, speaking of Ball State, I'll likely have a seat open next to me for that one. Anybody interested? I don't need a seat. I just sit on your lap, Greg, when we watch football together. Preston Bannock says, I am only going to one game, and that is in quotes because I am working the game. Okay, so you're going to be there regardless, but you're only going as a fan to one. Sam, who is now king number 2, says, I'm old enough to remember that Ball State's better chant that we did. That was great. Yeah. Ball State's better. Very good. You Wear Purple is a very good one. One of my favorite chants ever by the, and I don't know if that was in basketball. I think it was in football. Where Purdue chanted you wear purple to Northwestern, which was awesome. It's great. Brian T says hello from Tampa Bay. Excellent. It's probably 1,000 degrees and humid, but it's beautiful. So thanks for checking in, Brian. Appreciate it. Sam says t-shirt idea. #Team Meteor. That's a good one. I just like saying I hope both teams lose. But Team Meteor works. It's the same sentiment. I can work that in. Good stuff. Motor City Boiler says, even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. Drew and Tiller was our nut. We'll get another one eventually. See, it's if you keep trying, there's a lesson for all of us. If you keep working, you keep trying, good things happen. Purdue doesn't give up. Purdue's athletic department, well, not going to go too deep in that. Morgan Burke had different ideas of what was the measurement of success at times. I will say that, especially in football. But with Babinski's outlook is excellent. Yeah. Keep that there and keep the trustees on his, with a similar focus. Good things are going to happen. Full stop. Okay. Nate Dolan says that'd be a great t-shirt. Maybe our logo on the shoulder. Yeah. That gets expensive. Getting the logo on the shoulder printed is expensive. So we have to go through it. Have to print, have stock. That's a different thing. Motor City Bowler says Team Meteor. Laugh out loud. Blake Vidmer says fair points, but we're competing and had multiple Heisman hopefuls for like 5 straight years. Yeah, but I'll say it again. Just look at history. Just look at history. Good quarterbacks. There are formulas that work at Purdue. Really good quarterbacks work at Purdue. It's not just going back to the 60s. It's also the early 80s, right? Purdue had 10 wins in 1980 in football. 67, they were number 1 in the nation with Keys and Armstrong and come on. Quarterback after Greasy. Dag nabbit. One of you guys will tell me. 80s, early 80s, they were really, really good again. Really good. Went to the Blue Bonnet Bowl and the Peach Bowl. I know it doesn't sound like much today. They were really good. And then it came back again in the late 90s. There's kind of a rhythm. I think we're due. I think we're overdue. But you could say Brom's team, pretty good. Not quite as good, but pretty good. Pretty good. Right there, flirted with being much, much better too. So let me keep going. Yeah, Sam said, I made Purdue fans by bringing non-fans to Purdue bowl games. It's our enthusiasm as fans. I think Purdue fans sell the program, sell the product really well. So that's good stuff. Continue, says, folks stating Odom was the best hire this offseason. I believe that. There's a lot of reasons to think Odom was the perfect hire. And I'm not a guy who was like super excited with the announcement, but with the decimation that this program had, you need a guy who believes in systems and has some grit to him because he's not going to give up. That's Odom. John Ryder says, Phipps, thank you. Danielson. This is the whole thing. Phipps, Danielson, Greasy, right there. They're all right in a row, right? So you had Greasy, then Phipps, then Danielson, right? Right in a row. I believe those 3 were right in a row. And then in the 80s, you had Herman and Campbell right in a row. I mean, really, really good. And then with Tiller, you had, of course, Billy Dicken for a very short stint after he got his shoulder working again, taken off the scrap heap. He was a safety, and then he was all conference. And then, of course, that brought in the Drew Brees era, which was actually, if you really want to dig deep and nerdy into it, comes from the Mike Price offense at Washington State that Tiller learned. He brings it over, brings the spread over. Big Ten doesn't know what to do with it. Drew Brees lights the world on fire. And then Kyle Orton, and then even Curtis Painter as the system starts to fade out a little bit. So, yeah. Jim Everett, damn nabbit. Thank you, Sam. Jim Everett in 1984-85. So that wasn't that. I would say that's, it's not as good. That's the Liam Burtonette era. But yeah, Jim Everett, man, they slung the ball. And that was, yeah. So that's, yeah. So I would say, and that was an 8-win team. It's an 8-win team. To have as much longevity as Tiller did, the consistency of 7-8-win seasons, pretty good. But it's not, like I keep saying, it's not a natty. This will happen again. It's going to happen multiple times in my lifetime. So there you go. Yeah. Jim Everett, one of my favorite Purdue players ever, because I was in the Hoosier Dome when he lit Notre Dame on fire. That was incredible. Such a fun day. I was a young lad, but had a great time. So 1 hour and 3 minutes. I told you it was going to be a long show, but lots of good comments, lots of good interaction made this show even better, made the interaction even better. And I appreciate everybody for being here live and dealing with me and my technical problems. Until I talk to you next time, I don't know what that'll be about, but in probably a week or so. God bless you. Hammer down. We'll see you soon. Later.